Jai Hind, dear children. Welcome back our next online class. In this class, we are going to learn about politics, 7th chapter, understanding marginalization. Before starting the topic, first we must know about a small summary about this chapter. So dear children, watch it carefully. To be marginalized is to be forced to occupy the sides or fringes and not to be all center of things. In the social environment too, groups of people or communities are being excluded. Reasons for marginalization is different languages, follow different customs, belong to different religious group from majority community, they are poor, considered to be of low social status, and viewed as being less human than others. In this chapter, will help the student to understand this concept well. The first topic is a small introduction. Marginalized groups are viewed with hostility and fear. This sense of differences and exclusion leads the communities to not have access to resources and opportunities and unable to assert their rights, thus leading them to experience a sense of disadvantage and powerlessness vis-a-vis more powerful and dominant sections of society who own land, are wealthy, better educated, and politically powerful. Thus, marginalization is seldom experienced in one sphere. Economic, social, cultural, and political factors work together to make certain groups in society feel marginalized. Next, we must know about what is the meaning of marginalization. Marginalization is the process whereby something or someone is pushed to the edge of a group and accorded lesser importance. This is predominantly a social phenomenon by which a majority or subgroup is excluded and their needs or desires ignored. So this is called as marginalization. The next main topic is what does it mean to be socially marginalized? To be marginalized is to be forced to occupy the sides or fringes and thus not to be at the center of things. Sometimes marginalized groups are viewed with hostility and fear. There is a sense of differences and exclusion which leads a communities not having access to resources and opportunities and in their inability to assert their rights. To make certain groups in society feel marginalized, there are economic, social, cultural and political factors. Thus, marginalization is seldom experienced in one sphere. Next one is who are ADIVASIS? The term ADIVASIS refers to the original inhabitants. They are communities who lived and often continue to live in close association with forest. Around 8% of India's population is ADIVASIS. There are over 500 different ADIVASIS groups in India. They are not a homogeneous population. Many of India's most important mining and industrial areas are situated in Adivasi areas. Adivasis are popularly numerous in states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and in the northeastern states of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura. Orissa is home to more than 60 different tribal groups. Adivasis practice a range of tribal religions that are different from Islam, Hinduism, and Christianity. Their religions themselves have influenced dominant religions of the empire around them. They have most distinctive societies because there is often very little hierarchy among them. This makes them radically different from communities organized around principles of caste system. Adivasis worship ancestors, own village, and nature spirit. They have been influenced by different religions like Shakta, Buddhist, Vaishnava, Bhakti, and Christianity. Adivasis have their own languages, which was as old as Sanskrit. Santhali has the largest number of speakers and has a significant body of publication. The next topic is Adivasis and stereotyping. Stereotypes are characteristics imposed upon group of people because of their race, nationality and sexual orientation among others. So this is called stereotyping. Adivasis are invariably portrayed in very stereotypical ways in colorful costume, headgear and through their dancing. Adivasis are blamed for the lack of advancement as they are believed to be resistant to change or new ideas. People believe that the Adivasis are exotic and belong to primitive and backward background. The next main topic is Adivasis and development. Forests play a crucial role in the development of all empires and settled civilization in India, as they provide with metal, ores, iron and copper, gold and silver, invaluable timber, medicinal herbal, animal product, etc. Adivasis had deep knowledge of forest. Often empires heavily depended on Adivasis for the crucial access to forest resources. So here we must know about how the empire used Adivasis for their personal purposes. Because Adivasis have deep knowledge of forest, so this chance utilized by the empires. Today's world, Adivasis are considered marginal and powerless communities. In the pre-colonial world, they were traditionally arranged hunter-gatherers and nomads, and they lived by shifting agriculture and cultivating at one place. For the past 200 years, Adivasis have been forced through economic changes, forest policies and political force applied by state to migrate as workers in plantation industries and as domestic workers. Forest land have been cleared for timber and get to the land for agriculture and industry. Huge tracts of lands have gone under the waters of hundreds of dams that have been built in independent India. Losing their lands and access to the forest means that tribals lose their main source of livelihood, and Adivasis had migrated to cities in search of work. They get caught in the cycle of poverty and deprivation. Almost 45% of the tribal groups in rural areas and 35% in urban areas live below the poverty line. As a result, many tribal children are malnourished, and also literacy rate is also very low among tribal. The next main topic is minorities and marginalization. The term minority is most commonly used to refer to communities that are numerically small in relation to the rest of the population. It encompasses issue of power, access to resources, and has social and cultural dimensions. Safeguards are needed to protect minority communities against the possibility of being culturally dominated by the majority. They also protect them against any discrimination and disadvantage that they may face. The Constitution provides this safeguard because it is committed to protecting India's cultural diversity and promoting equality as well as justice. The next main topic is Muslims and marginalization. Muslims are 13.4% of India's population and are considered to be a marginalized community in India. They have over the years been deprived of the benefit of socio-economic development or basic amenities, literacy and public employment. Recognizing that Muslims in India were lagging behind in terms of various development in indicators, the government set up a high-level committee in 2005. The report of the community suggests that Muslim community is comparable to that of other marginalized communities like scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. According to the report of average years of schooling for Muslim children between ages of 7 to 16 is much lower than that of other socio-religious communities. Muslim customs and practices such as wearing burqa and viz make them different from others. Because of this, they tend to be identified differently, and some people think they are not like the rest of us. This often becomes an excuse to treat them unfairly. The experience of all these groups point to the fact that marginalization is a complex phenomenon requiring a variety of strategies, measures, and safeguards to redress the situation. Every citizen has a stake in protecting the rights defined in the Constitution and laws and policies framed to realize these rights. Without this, no one will ever be able to protect the diversity that makes one country unique. Next one is, what is ghettoization? A ghetto is an area or locality that is populated largely by members of a particular community. Therefore, a process that leads to such a situation. This may occur due to various social, cultural, and economic reasons. So this is called ghettoization. The last topic is conclusion. There are different reasons for each of the communities being marginalized. Each experiences marginalization in different ways. Marginalization is often linked to experiencing disadvantage, prejudice, and powerlessness. In India, there are several more marginalized communities like Dalit. Marginalization results in having a low social status and not having equal access to education and other resources. Marginalized communities want to maintain their cultural distinctiveness while having access to right, development, and other opportunities.
4. Social justice and the marginalized. Marginalized groups are those groups in the society which suffered social and economic backwardness due to several reasons and remained ignored in the society. They include scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes and minorities. We cannot call our polity democratic unless there is social and economic equality. In our traditional society, there are several customs and practices that have been passed on through the ages which are not conducive to social equality. The feeling of casteism and untouchability has marginalized a section of people and created social inequalities. The preamble of our Constitution declares that it aims to bring about justice in the social, economic, and political sphere and hopes to achieve equality of status and equal opportunities to all. If this is fulfilled, it would contribute to the dignity of individual and promote unity in the country. If equality is to be achieved, these marginalized people have to be brought up to the same level as the rest of the society. Our constitution makers were aware of this problem and proposed some temporary and some permanent measures for their upliftment. Some provisions aim to improve the conditions of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes. Other provisions protect a category of people who are in minority in terms of numbers. They need to be protected so that the majority does not oppress them. Our Constitution also protects women, children, and other socially and educationally backward classes of people. Scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Previously called depressed classes by the British, they are the Indian population grouping that are explicitly recognized by Indian Constitution. As per 2001 census, SCs and STs together comprise over 24% of India's population, with scheduled castes at over 16% and scheduled tribes over 8%. The proportion of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in the population of India has steadily risen since our independence in 1947. History. From the 1850s, these communities were loosely referred to as the depressed classes. The early part of the 20th century saw a flurry of activity in the British Raj to assess the feasibility of responsible self-government for India. One of the hotly contested issues in the proposed reforms was the topic of reservation of seats for the depressed classes in provincial and central legislatures. In 1935, the British passed the Government of India Act 1935, and reservation of seats for the depressed classes was incorporated in its structure. The Act brought the term scheduled castes into use and defined the group as including such castes, races or tribes which appear to His Majesty in Council to correspond to classes of persons formerly known as the depressed classes. This discretionary definition was clarified in the Government of India Scheduled Castes Order 1936, which contained a list or schedule of castes throughout the British-administered provinces. After independence, the Constituent Assembly continued the prevailing definition of scheduled castes and tribes and gave the President of India and governors of states responsibility to compile a full listing of castes and tribes and also the power to edit it later as required. There is no specific definition of scheduled castes and tribes. Castes which were formerly treated as untouchables in the society are called scheduled castes. According to 2001 census, the scheduled castes population was registered as 166.64 million. Similarly, scheduled tribes represent communities which are economically backward and inhabiting the remote hilly and thickly forested areas. According to 2001 census, they comprise 84.33 million population. Indian society has traditionally been divided into castes on the basis of occupation. A group of people who did not belong to this caste hierarchy lived outside the villages in the past. As they did menial jobs, they were considered outcasts and began to be called untouchables. Over the years, they were denied all opportunities to lead a dignified life. Some of the social reformers like Jyotiba Phule, Sri Narayana Guru, and Mahatma Gandhi worked hard to fight against this evil practice of untouchability. Although scheduled castes and minorities lived in villages and towns along with other people, scheduled tribes lived in hilly areas and forests of states like Odisha, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat, and other northeastern states. What sets them apart from the rest is the fact that they live in isolation and follow a very distinct culture from others. A list of tribes was drawn out by respective state governments which collectively came to be known as scheduled tribes. The constitution laid down 15% vacancy to government-aided educational institutes and for jobs in the government or public sector as reserved quota for a period of 5 years, after which the situation was to be reviewed. This period was routinely extended by succeeding governments. Moreover, the Mandal Commission report identified 3,743 backward classes or castes which are poverty-ridden but are not untouchables. They are mostly engaged in agriculture, animal husbandry and handicraft. They constitute other backward classes and thus get 27% reservation in public services. The Constitution has made no reference to other backward castes as such. Trivia. In the original Constitution, Article 338 provided for a special officer for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes to have responsibility of monitoring the effective implementation of various safeguards for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes.